So this week we covered the subject of comping or accompanying. It's a really important subject for a guitarist to get to know, and we'd not looked at it before, so this is quite exciting. The way we're going to approach this is in terms of common rhythms that are used in comping. So just very briefly a quick outline of what it is that we're going to be covering. This style of playing really comes from piano players. So although it's something that you apply a lot on the guitar, and I'd say most of my playing on jazz gigs is comping, it's really developed by piano players and comes from their way of playing. So what you're doing basically is you're filling in the chords between the bass line and the soloist. So your role is really to support the soloist. So as much as you can, get out and practice this with other people, try accompanying other people, and we'll cover some of the blocks that will help you do that. So just like with the blues, there are idioms in jazz and there are things that you want to know, sort of cliches that are really useful, and rhythms are a big part of this. So what we're going to cover now is the few of the rhythms that we covered last night. The first one is sometimes called the Charleston rhythm, and it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So pretty straightforward. In this language we were talking about it last night, that's on beat 1 and the end of 2. And 1, 2, and like that. So it's useful. You might want to practice it on its own, you might want to put it through a blues, and that sounds like this. And so on. The next thing we talked about was anticipation. So far, when we've been learning a tune, we put all the chord changes on beat 1. So it's landed like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a great start point, but it sounds a little bit wooden and a little bit dead. Sometimes really useful, but not always what you want. Much more common is to play the chord on the and of 4. This gives a bit more momentum and a little bit more direction to what's going on. So you're aiming for the and of 4, so you've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like that. So I'll give you a demonstration of how that sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Like I was saying, there's a bit more momentum there, and it accents a swing quite nicely. So that's something you really want to practice with a metronome. You can have the metronome on every 4 beats, as in every beat, on all 4 beats to start off with. But you want to progress to having the metronome just on 2 and 4. I'm not going to talk about that too much now, but we talked about it yesterday and it'll come up again later. So metronome on 2 and 4 is really useful. The last rhythm that we covered was a little bit more busy, a little bit more going on. We took it from a Count Basie record, I think, in the piano part. So with all these rhythms, they're all things that I've taken from recordings. So you listen to what the piano player's doing, you go, oh, I quite like this little bit that he's doing here. You can take those rhythms out and you can manipulate them and use it for yourself. So this last rhythm goes like this. It's pretty straightforward. Again, you can take it through a blues. The last thing we did was we manipulated that last rhythm. So with all these, you can change them around, you can move them across different beats. We didn't get into too much of that yesterday, but one thing we did do is that rhythm starts on beat 1. And so we anticipated that, so we put that on the and of 4. So now it sounds like this. Let's add in some more options in. So to review, we have 4 rhythms now. So we've got the Charleston, anticipated 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. We've got this rhythm, and we've got that with anticipation. So you may have noticed that so far this is all quite busy, and one thing we did talk about last night was actually playing quite sparsely and focusing on interacting with the soloist. So you can use all of these rhythms when you're comping. They're all really useful. What you might want to avoid is just playing the same rhythm round and round, unless it's specifically in the style that wants you to do that. What you really want to be doing is focusing on listening to the soloist and complementing what they're doing. Make sure you give them plenty of space so you can really have a conversation. Hopefully you find that useful, and we'll be doing more of this next week.